Welcome to MMA Fancast. My name's Luke Payson, and I am joined by first-time guest of the show, Kam Smith. Kam, welcome to the show.
How's it going?
It's going great. I'm always excited to have first-time guests. I hope to then become a regular guest on the show. So thanks so much for coming on. You've got Brawl the Berg 15 for 247 Fighting Championship, December 17th at the Monroeville Convention Center coming up. So let's jump in first about how you're feeling with that fight coming up against Tim Bailey at 135 pounds, really in just a couple weeks.
I'm feeling really good. I'm feeling a lot healthier, mentally and physically compared to my last fight. I'm just eager to get back out there and show everybody what I got.
And how has training been? You got a lot of experience in your debut fight. That's always important to get that experience in your first fight. How has training been like, and how has it been different after that fight, now that you have real cage experience?
As far as the training goes, the way we switched it up is really focused on conditioning part. My last fight, my debut, my conditioning wasn't there. I got too tired too quickly. So that's been our main focus this fight and this time around, is to get my endurance up, stay conditioned. So that's okay. The biggest thing we've changed.
And along with that conditioning, 247 announced when they posted your poster that you're dropping to 135. So that's obviously part of your conditioning. How has that been? What's it been like targeting a different weight class?
135 is more my weight class. 145 is pretty much out of my weight class. I was walking around less than what I actually needed to weigh. So instead of cutting weight my last fight, I had to put on weight. And that was pretty difficult. I didn't get to work on conditioning a lot. I had to work on strengthening and lifting and eating. And it didn't help my endurance at all. I was just so eager to get in the ring and get an opportunity. I took the fight I could get, which was at 145. So 135 is better, definitely better for me, more my weight.
Well, that does make a lot of sense as far as, we've seen the negatives of like extreme weight cutting, which is dangerous, where, of course, he just passed away to cancer, which is very sad. But Anthony Rumble Johnson used to cut dangerously down to 170, ended up being successful at 205 and even heavyweight. He's kind of like the prototypical guy who should have never been at that weight class. I think the difference with what you're saying is, for you to be in the shape you need to be in and put in the cardio work, you're going to be at the 135-pound range anyhow. And if there would be any cut, it might be 25 at some point. So that makes a lot of sense. Also, that experience goes a long way. Speaking of experience, your opponent is 1-1. You're 0-1, so you're both still early in your career. How do you think you match up against Tim Bailey, or is this more you just focusing on yourself coming into this fight?
I've watched Tim Bailey's fights. Seems really solid, especially beginning. Like, we're both new to actual cage fighting, getting our experience in. So he seems really technical. So I'm excited for our matchup. But as far as your question goes, I'm really just focusing on me. Tim Bailey's my opponent, but it's really me versus me. I feel like battles are won within you, so I gotta beat the battle with myself first, and I think that'll take care of everything. So that's what I'm focusing on, is myself.
That is the one controllable factor in the fight, is what you bring to it, what work you put in, how you do, how you respond. You can't control your opponent, but you can be in control of how you respond to him. So obviously that's a really healthy mindset that goes for any sport or even life in general, as far as losing touch with your own capability can lead to a lot of anxiety. So it sounds like you're doing really well focusing on what you can control and what's something that you have kind of responsibility for. Fighting again for 247, what did you like? I know the fight didn't go your way, but what did you like about the promotion? I know they're really aiming to increase kind of their level of fights every time. What was it like being not only fighting for 247, but just being on your first card ever, being in the environment? What stood out to you as far as being behind the scenes? There's something special about being behind the scenes in the blue or red room of a fight.
Well, as far as the promotion of 247, very professional. I have friends and people I've trained with who fought at MMA events that weren't really run that well. And this, when we went here, I mean, nothing but professionalism. Really happy with how everything was ran. I thought everything was they put on a great show. And as far as my first fight going, I mean, anybody's first fight is the most difficult fight. So that's what I'm looking forward to this next one, because I've already been there. I've got that experience. I don't have to worry about that first fight feeling. I already kind of know what to expect being in the ring, but it was definitely a different feeling being in the cage and the atmosphere with everybody there. So definitely going to be a different but better feeling this time.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. You only have your debut MMA fight once as an amateur, and then at some point, it's the same thing as far as pro goes. But that makes a lot of sense. As exciting as it is, I'm sure you'll feel a little bit more familiar when you're behind the scenes for your second fight. So, as far as you go, I think you're a bit of a travel to come in. So, what's the travel like? Or are you local? I don't think you're super local. So what's that like for you?
I'm from Baufallon, Ohio, so that's about 4 to 5 hours,
Yeah.
give or take traffic. So it's a little bit of a drive, but traveling isn't anything new to us. So like I said, I'm just looking for an opportunity, and I'm thankful that you guys gave me one with my last fight. So and I liked how you guys ran everything and how the whole thing was set up. So the travel isn't bad. It's worth it.
Sure. I think that's a tremendous attitude, not only for you, but for your team. I remember I'm going to say it was it might have been last summer. I think it was last summer. I actually, 247, we were honored to have Glover Teixeira come. It was a couple months before he won his belt. And he came down, he has a gym up in Connecticut. He came down to corner a debut 0-0 fighter who has since done quite well as amateur. But I remember kind of being shocked at the time he was getting ready for what ended up becoming a successful run for the title in the UFC. And you would think somebody at his level, why would he come down to corner a debut fighter? But basically his attitude was kind of like what you said, that getting fights for fighters is the most important thing. And so even though he was sort of, I think it was like a 7 or 8 hour drive, that was worth it for him.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as I saw that, I was like,
Definitely.
yeah, we get spoiled. The local Pittsburgh gyms get spoiled now, having 247, having a promotion putting them on. But I remember when I was running a gym outside of Philly, we came to Pittsburgh a couple times. So that's 5-6 hours.
Yeah.
So makes perfect sense. What's your gym? Who are your main coaches and trainers? And talk a little bit about your gym coming into this fight.
I train at CFT Martial Arts. That's around Mad River Mountain in Ohio. Basically grew up here. I've been training here pretty much my whole life, so it's like a second home to me here. As far as my coaches go, Ron Smith and Quentin Mansfield. Quentin Mansfield is more my jiu-jitsu coach. He has a lot of ranking in Japanese jiu-jitsu and high ranking in BJJ, so he's the one I go to for that. As far as my striking and some of the other all-round or well-rounded aspects of the game lead to Ron Smith. So he's been teaching martial arts and training for 25 plus years. So that's who I look for advice.
Well, I think you did a great job of talking about your coaches and your gym. You talked about training with them forever. I know you're a young guy. You're still only 20. So what age were you when you got into training MMA or any aspect of MMA at your gym? Because clearly you said you've been there for a while.
It's kind of like a family business. My dad started
Ah,
this gym. My dad would be Ron Smith.
oh, well, that makes
So
sense. Ron
makes sense.
Smith,
Same
sure.
last name. But
Yes,
I was kind of born into this. I started when I was 4. So I've trained in many different martial arts growing up, and still to this day. Now at this age and this level, it's about combining it at this level in the cage and putting it together in a live setting. So that's what the challenge that we're going towards.
sure. Yeah, I apologize for not picking up on it right away, but with the last
Oh,
name Smith, it's
you're
so
good.
common. It didn't,
Smith is common. Like, yeah,
yeah. But
that's
that's a special thing. So let's ask about that real quick. Clearly, you've been, like you said, it's a family business. You learned all different types of martial arts. MMA is special in the sense of it's combining whatever works. Stephen Wonderboy Thompson just won a pretty big fight, and
watched that fight. It was a good fight.
it was a great fight. And one of the things that's interesting is there are still, of course, he's been in UFC now for a while, but there's still the occasional person that comes in with a more traditional style, whether it be karate or whether it be one of the more traditional martial arts. I'm thinking way back to Leota, the Dragon Machida. Every once in a while, a guy with a more unique style comes in. And to your point, it's all about what works. And I think that's why BJJ became huge with the Gracies and all, but it was also because other people weren't training to defend BJJ. A lot of the
Yeah.
first opponents had no idea what it was. And so what I've really seen in MMA, and you're a great example, being 20, having trained since you were 4 in a bunch of martial arts, is everybody ends up leveling up. There was a time where people didn't know how to defend a double leg takedown if they weren't a wrestler.
Yeah.
Now that's a defense people know even if they're not a wrestler. Same thing with BJJ. I have talked to wrestlers that literally don't know anything else other than how to get out of the guillotine, right? Because they know as a wrestler that is susceptible. So it's really cool that you have that. What's it like having your dad as one of your main coaches and in your corner and kind of that experience?
I mean, like I said, I basically this place that I train at is like a second home to me. So he's always pushed me hard. A lot of discipline. It's not necessarily about motivation when it comes to workouts. It's just staying disciplined. So he's been always by my side to push me and keep me disciplined. I mean, I learned a lot from him. I learned a lot from his students, some of the people that he's trained and now teach for him. So, I mean, it's a great environment here. And I feel like that's something that kind of separates from a lot of other people because most people either they maybe did some martial arts back in the day and now they're older and they want to hop into MMA, so they join a gym and train for a year or so and then get their first fight. But most of my background comes from traditional martial arts. So karate, jitsu, jiu-jitsu are the main two. Is what I have my training in. So I feel like that makes it a bit more unique. I know I definitely see a lot of fighters that have a wrestling background, so it's always fun going against different people with different backgrounds. A lot of people I train with, they have different backgrounds and whatnot, but it's definitely fun going against people who have a wrestling background. So
Sure. And your gym that your dad runs, the name of it is the Center for Traditional Martial Arts, and that makes a lot of sense with what you're saying. Doing what traditional martial arts have always brought in, the talent, the skill, the discipline, that mindset, and then also combining it with competing in MMA. So it's been really fun getting to know you. I know I saw your debut fight. There's always, Jim Mooney and the other matchmakers. He's the main matchmaker for 247. Do a great job constantly, not only keeping fighters in the fold like you and continuing to fight 2, 3, 4 times for the promotion, but also bringing in new talent. And so it's always hard to kind of stay up on everything. But I'm really glad that not only that you're willing to make the trip in, but also to kind of see what MMA originally started as, which was to seeing traditional martial arts get put in an environment where they can do whatever is effective. So super cool. I would assume you know, you're not gonna have a ton of people following with you because it's a 5 hour drive. So I'll remind everybody that they can do the pay-per-view at 247 live now, and also that they can select your name to get credit for doing the pay-per-view. What do you want to give us kind of your last thought as we wrap this up going into December 17th for maybe your friends and family that are going to be watching on pay-per-view?
I just wanted to thank everybody for the support I have around me. I feel like I got a whole village and community of people behind me. So after my debut, I didn't get the result I wanted, partially because wasn't conditioned enough. You don't have the energy to do stuff. You can't really do anything. So I feel like I got a lot to show. I feel like I got a lot to show this time around. And I thank you. I thank everybody who has stuck with me and is continuing to encourage me and step in my corner. So that would be my final thoughts.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. You've been listening to MMA Fancast with Luke Payson, and first time gets to the show, Kam Smith. Cam, thanks so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
You got it, bud. Take care.
You too.